Hey, I want to tell you that some of the most wonderful memory, perhaps one of the most wonderful memories that I've ever had, took place here in San Francisco. So it's a very kind of a favorite city of mine, and always will be. Many years ago, I was doing, as you know, a number of westerns. I was a cowboy before I became a doctor. And I had done a couple of shows for Bill Dozier and Bob Sparks over at Columbia Pictures, in which I had played a heavy. I was, for about 10 years, a bad guy. That's the reason Star Trek didn't want me. They made two pilots and said, this guy's killing people. We don't want a doctor walking around like that. But anyhow, the pilots that I worked in, I was not starring in them. I was a second lead in them, but they were selling. So Columbia decided that they would try to take a shot with me. And they were going to do a show here called 333 Montgomery, where a very, very tremendous lawyer named Jake Ehrlich, a criminal lawyer, resided. You know him, did know him, wonderful man, terrific guy. I still miss him. But anyhow, Bob Sparks says, we want you to go over to Westwood D and meet this guy, the writer of the show. So I went over to Westwood and I went upstairs into this tiny little office, and here's this bear of a man sitting there. And this was around 1959, and it was Gene Roddenberry. So I had a long talk with him, and he said, we're going to test you because Jake Ehrlich has to decide who's going to portray him. So I did the test, and fortunately, Ehrlich selected me to portray him. Thank you. Thus, I became endeared in a very close way to Gene Roddenberry. And we shot the whole thing, but a couple of few scenes here in San Francisco, in Jake's offices at 333 and out at Pacific Heights, North Beach, all around. So we were here for a couple of weeks having a wonderful time. So I had the privilege of having had dinner with Gene a matter of weeks before he passed away. It was at our 25th anniversary, actually, the show that we put on down at the Shrine. I wrote this poem called The Dream Ends. That was when they were going to drop us, after number 6. So everybody gave a big groan when I said that, and so I changed the title to it, to The Dream Goes On and On and On. So Adam Malin had been hounding me to get this thing in print and I had been getting a lot of mail, people wanting copies of it. So finally, I got a copy off to him for the 25th anniversary, and Adam has done it up in true DeForest Kelley form. There are nothing but cowboy pictures in here. But anyhow, with your indulgence, I would like to read this, even though it's... A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, I think some of you heard me say, Star Trek lives, it will not die, and you are the someone who made it fly. Well, the studio was in a kind of a fix. They wanted to do number 6, but after we did number 5, Paramount's faith took a dive. And then they thought of all the press they could get, and suddenly it became a very good bet. So they put out the word for the world to hear, Star Trek 6 for the 25th year. Now lots of changes are taking place. You turn around, there's a brand new face. It just goes to show you never know, they even let Mancuso go. And Harv Bennett, he left in a huff. He simply said he'd had enough. I give him credit, he stood his ground, and I miss knowing he's not around. He'd been with us since Star Trek II, and that alone was tough to do. He was always there to hear you out, no matter what it was all about. Another reason for liking him, he scrubbed that line, "He's dead, Jim." It's good to know, just in case, we've got Ralph Winter in his place. A better man could not be found, and we thank our stars he's still around. And I've got some more good news. We've got Nick Meyer. How can we lose? It's good to have someone we know to see us through this final show. Star Trek VI was made for you, and it's Paramount's way of saying adieu. Please accept it with deep appreciation from those of us in the Federation. We don't care about a critic's review. We only hope that it pleases you. They've critiqued our bellies, our wrinkles, and our hair. We just keep going. We don't care. I don't suppose they've ever been told that all of us are growing old. It seems to me the thing worth knowing is to simply try to keep on growing. But now it's time to check on the crew and to see what's old and what is new. Jimmy's bought a new RV. It's the fanciest one you'll ever see. It must have been built for a movie star. It looks like a traveling bar. He's going to move to Washington State and build a home for himself and his mate. It's on 5 acres, way out of town, and we'll miss knowing that he's around. He's sick of the traffic and the LA noise, and he wants to relax with Wendy and the boys. And Pocket decided, after taking a look, they'd republish Walter's book, but not before he agreed to relent and let them use that damn accent. And when George lost his job on the mayor's staff, I thought he'd lose that crazy laugh. But when he's back on the set, it's louder than before. He's blown 20 takes and maybe more. As most of you probably know, Nichelle now has a one-woman show. She's touring the nation in a variety of roles, touching people's hearts and lifting their souls. She's got talent, looks, and guts, and she's out there knocking them on their butts. We love Nichelle. She's very dear, even with that thing stuck in our ear. Oh, Bill, of course, is doing 9/11. He's a star, so he's in heaven. He always seems to be on the go, even has his own horse show. He works all week, and he rides on Sunday, and he's back on the set the first thing Monday. It can't be money he's going after. It must be applause, joy, and laughter. And I hope he'll always be around, with both feet firmly on the ground. After all, it's because of him I have that line, "He's dead, Jim." You remember that alien with the pointed ears who gave me trouble for 25 years? Who wanted to die in Star Trek II and gave the impression that he was through? Remember? But boy, did he do a turnaround when he heard that old money sound. He not only decided he would not defect, but wanted to act and direct. He just went crazy, wanting more. He directed 3 and also 4. And now he's back as an actor-producer, a very, very important factor. For I never thought I'd see the day when Spock would control my movie pay. Even so, I'll never get rich because of that green-blooded son of a bitch. But I can't kick about my life. I'm happy in the valley with the very same wife. Not many of them can say that. Finally and foremost, there's my dear friend Gene, the man responsible for this whole wonderful scene. Isn't it strange how one person you know can change the way your life will go? He will always be a part of my life, even though my nurse became his wife. Now, all of this has been said in fun and not intended to hurt anyone. You are the reason we're all here, to celebrate this, our 25th year. I always thought Star Trek would just be something constant, such as the sea. But like all good things, this too must pass. So I'll see you often in the bottom of my glass. Gene Roddenberry was a man with a great zest for living. A man Gene was a philosopher in many ways. And the older he got, I could see, and hopefully I thought he'd live forever, you know. I never thought of Gene going when he went. As we all know, he was a deep thinker, but a man who loved life, loved to have a ball, have a good time. As he always said, this producer, Bob Sparks, he said at his memorial service, he said, the one good thing Bob Sparks taught me, and he said that was how to have a good time and spend company money. And he was a very, he was devoted to actors, certain actors that he felt strong about. He would fight for them. There are not many people that will do that in this business. I've had maybe 4 people in my lifetime that said, I want him for this role, and stay with it. And Gene would do that. He certainly did it with me, because I'm not kidding when I'm up on that stage, and I can tell you that NBC didn't want me. Gene wanted me for the first one. He wanted me for the second one. And he finally got me for the third one. This belt buckle was given to me by one of my fan club presidents. And I was down in Florida, and it happened to be my birthday at the time. And so they gave it to me for my 138th birthday. But there was one thing about doing that cameo I did for Gene on The Next Generation. Everybody says now, gee, he looks a lot younger in person. I meant to tell you something. Yesterday we were talking about, somebody was asking me to talk about some of the experiences that happened in some of the westerns I did. And I was talking about a film that I made called Warlock a long time ago, with Henry Fonda and Richard Widmark and Tony Quinn. And I was telling a story, and I'd forgotten to tell him that there was another funny incident that happened. We were riding into town, and there were about, 15 or 20 of us. And Don Red Barry, who was a wild-ass cowboy at the time, was leading the pack along with me coming in town. And we were barreling down the street, and we all had to swing in and tie up at a rail, just fall in like that, and then get off the horses and go into the saloon. And as we started to swing in, why, I had on spurs. That was my first mistake. And as I swung off the horse, my spur kicked the horse's rump next to me, and he kicked up in the air, and that threw me up into the air. This is a true story. And I did a complete flip. Now, there's a tie rail there, and it was a miracle my head missed it, and I hit flat on my back, and I uttered a naughty word in the air. I thought, this is so silly. Yeah, I could see what was going to happen. And our director was a man with a very dry sense of humor, always with just a big cigar. He never lit the cigar. But there was this big silence, you know. And finally, I see Edward Dmytryk bending over the tie rail looking at me. And he said, "Are you all right, D?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm okay." He said, "Gee, I'm glad I hired real cowboys." The same show, I had a scene where I had to come into this saloon and have a showdown with Fonda because I had a reputation for being a real fast draw. And I had heard about Fonda. And so I go into the saloon to kind of taunt him into drawing with me. And these men come in behind me. And on that particular day, Fonda couldn't be there. He had gone to the funeral of an actor named Tyrone Power at the time. And it was on a Friday. And so I had been working with Rod Redwing, who was a marvelous gun and knife man. And I had been learning what they call a flyaway. That when you pick up a gun, twirl it around and put it in the holster. And it was kind of a difficult move. And the day before we did this, Edward Dmytryk saw me standing out in front of the soundstage. He said, "D, I want you to be up on that scene Friday." He said, "because Princess Sophia of Greece is going to be here." And this guy had, you know, a dry sense of humor, so I thought, oh, he's kidding. Maybe he means Sophia Loren or something like that. But sure enough, the next Friday, here comes Princess Sophia of Greece. I'm nervous enough working with people like Fonda and Widmark and all of those. Here she comes with an entourage behind her. They get out of the limos and they go in. And this set had a big staircase, carpeted staircase going to the upstairs of the saloon. So they all got up there on the stairs to look at my close-up where a guy was reading Fonda's part off camera. And so I started doing the scene, and everything was going well. And I had forgotten all about them being there. I was, you know, locked into the scene, and I was sweating out picking up that gun because Fonda says, "Okay, Curly," he says, "now get out of here. Pick up your gun, take your men, and get out." And there were bat wing doors behind me that I was going out. So I started out, backing up. I picked up the gun, flipped it, fell into the holster, and I felt very good about it. And I salute him because he outdrew me. He was very fast. I had to draw with him, and he was so quick, he astounded me, and I gave him a smile and a little tip of the hat, and very cockily walked backwards and tripped over a chair. And as I did, I had forgotten she was there, the princess, and I said, "Oh, shit." And then it hit me. The Princess of Greece is on the stairway with her entourage. So I didn't get off the floor. I crawled out. So help me. I crawled out the back through those bat-wing doors underneath them, and you could have heard a pin drop. I mean it. And Dmytryk comes out, and he looks at me again. He said, "D," he said, "I bet you sat up all night trying to think of what to say in front of the princess." That day, on the lunch break, I went to the commissary. Of course, it was all over the lot. DeForest Kelley had said shit in front of the princess. I go into the commissary, and they all stand up, all these people in the commissary, and give me a standing ovation. So, anyhow. Oh, I must tell you one other thing. You ever heard of an actor named Rory Calhoun? Doing a show with Rory, and Rory's a great kidder, you know, a jokester, and he likes to play kind of crude things. And so he had come up behind me a couple of times. So we were on location, and it was in the cold winter, and they rigged dressing rooms in canvas, little canvas dressing rooms outside, and had little electric heaters in them. Anyhow, he's coming up behind me, and what he'd do, he'd have a coffee cup in his hand, and he'd sneeze, and he'd dip his fingers in it, and then flick it on your neck and say, "Oh, excuse me, D," you know, that sort of thing. So I'm sitting out there one day, and he's always doing something like that, and I'm sitting in a chair, director's chair, and I had kind of had my feet out, and he's coming down with Slim Pickens. They're walking together, and he got a cup of coffee, and he trips over my foot and spills the coffee over my leg. And he said, "Oh, I'm sorry, Dee, very sorry." And I said, "Oh, that's okay, Rory." And I saw one of the maintenance men, we had a lot of horses there, shoveling up, they have to, the fresh manure, you know, to keep it clean. So I called him over and I said, "Look, I want you to do me a favor." I said, "Would you shovel up one of the very fresh ones and follow me?" He said, "Sure, Mr. Kelley." So I said, "Come with me." So he follows me down to the dressing room, and I said, "I want it placed in here." He said, "Oh, shall I?" He said, "Are you certain this is Mr. Calhoun's dressing room?" I said, "How well I know that." He said, "Where do you want to put it?" I said, there was a little curtain where his clothes were hung, you know, just a makeshift curtain. I said, "I want it at the foot of that little closet there where his clothes are." He said, "Are you sure, Mr. Kelley?" I said, "I'm positive." He put it in there. So I thanked him and graced him with a couple of bucks or so. And when he left, I took the electric fan and placed it in front of that curtain, far enough away not to create but to really put the heat on it. I had figured out I was getting off at 3:30 that afternoon. So he's a rough guy. So I got that place kind of heated up and I left. And he was out there working, and I left at 3:30. The next morning, he's in a corral having a fight with one of the heavies. And I come in and he sees me, and he stops right in the middle of the scene, the camera and everything, and gets out and jumps over that corral and picks me up and says, "You little shit." He said, "I ought to throw you down on the ground." I said, "Just don't spread any more coffee with me, Rory." But they were a lot of fun. We enjoyed doing those things. They're always kind of fun on a Western. While we were doing Star Trek VI, they always have food out, you know, for the actors and so forth. And Christopher Plummer was eating a English muffin one morning, and I walked by and I said, the fragrance was so good. And I said, "What is that?" It looks like an English muffin. He said, "It is. It's the new ones," he said, "they have with the raisins and the cinnamon." And God, it smelled good. So he said, "There's only one left." He said, "You better get it." So I went over and I got it, and I popped it in the toaster, and then they called me. I had to go on the set. And so I walked off, and when I came back, I noticed that Bill Shatner was at the other end of the table. Excuse me. Terrible guy with the food in the first place, but he was just over there eating something like that. And so the makeup man, who is Bill's makeup man, said, "Dee, would you turn around a minute, the light over here?" He said, "I want to fix something in your makeup." So when I did that, and as I turned around, Bill was really stuffing himself with it. And I went over to get my English muffin, and that's where it was. And I looked at him and I said, "Can I do something for you?" He said, "Yeah, you can call 911. He was about to choke on this thing. So I said, "Bill, I'll tell you," I said, "I'll get even with you somewhere down the line." He said, "Why?" He said, "I was just, he said, just having a little fun." I said, "I'll get even." He said, "When?" I said, "Don't worry, it'll happen." So time goes by, and we go to the Shrine Auditorium. In the meantime, before we went to the Shrine Auditorium, that was a couple of weeks away or something, he went to Arizona for Adam Malin, and this is a true story, and he'd been telling about this cookie thing that he thought it was real funny. So he came on the set and he said, "Hey, Dee," he said, "I made an appearance in Arizona," and he said, I told him the cookie story, and he said, "They just loved it." And I said, "That's wonderful, Bill. I'm glad you're enjoying it." We got down to the shrine, and Leonard and Bill are sitting in the back. I went on first, and I was to introduce Bill. And so when I went out, I knew he was going to open with that cookie story. So I told the cookie story. Now, then I interrupted. "Here's William Shatner." He came out like he could just kill me, you know. And I went back off stage, and Leonard is sitting back there on a bench, and he's laughing and laughing. He said, "Shatner is beside himself." He said he opened with, I was going to open with that, and he went out there and told it. He opened with it, and he was just beside himself. Now, in the meantime, he's out there, and these people that were there will tell you this is the truth. He is nailing me to the cross. He's talking about everything. He keeps telling them about how old I am and how forgetful I am. And I thought, well, a little bit of it was funny, but he went on and on and on. And I told Leonard, I said, "Christ, he's making a concert out of this thing out there." I said, "I'd give my soul if I had a hook. I'd go out and get him." Stage manager is a true story behind me. He said, "Mr. Kelley, I have one." I said, "Go get it." He went after this thing, and he came in with a pole that, I'm not exaggerating, must have been at least 15 or 20 feet long. And it had like a gig on the end of it. So I had to be very careful, you know, if he turned around and ran into this thing, he would really be wounded. So I said to Leonard, I said, "You come go with me." He said, "Not a chance in hell." So I went out after him with this pole, and everybody screamed, and Bill was telling a story, and he was walking way over here like this, you know, and he thought they were laughing at him, see? Then he suddenly turned around, and he saw me with this pole. Knowing Bill, I didn't know what to do, so I turned around and took my pole and ran back off stage. Bill turned around and said, "Look at him. He's so old, he forgot what he came out here for." You're taking up your time with my anecdote. That was a big year, the 25th year. You know, Star Trek 6 opened around the 6th, and then the 18th. I got my star on Hollywood Boulevard, and then, thank you. And then the really big show, the thing we were installed in Grauman's Chinese Theater, and they were trying to work a way to get all the cast in, and they put Bill and Leonard in a couple of medium-sized squares, and to get DeForest Kelley in, I had to take this big center square. And so it really was something, you know. It was, when you see it, you'll see it's a big, long square, and it's much larger than Bill and Leonard's, the rest of them. So in the excitement, I'm signing my name, and the photographers are saying, "DeForest, look this way, look this way." And before that, Barry London, who's a big executive at Paramount, had been up there telling about how this thing the whole thing started, and he said people have been known to get so nervous that they misspell their name. I left the S out in mine. So Bill Shatner never forgot about that, you know. He's going around telling everybody that, and somebody said yesterday, Bill Shatner said that he couldn't figure out how they arrived at putting DeForest Kelley's name there so big. And I told her, the next time you see Bill Shatner at a convention, You tell him that I said that I'm just grateful that they finally realized that I was the most popular one of the three. Yes. My favorite episode was City on the Edge of Forever. I don't know why. I always had a great affection for that particular episode. If I had to select one, there were a number of them that I felt were exceedingly good. We enjoyed doing one of them called The Empath, as I've said before, because it was shot in such a unique way. They draped the whole stage off about this size in black, and it was dark as it could be in there, and they shot it in pinpoint lighting. We did it like theater in the round. And it was a very interesting, unique way to shoot a show. But I'd have to say City on the Edge of Forever was really my favorite.
For years, I wanted to always do a Western in sci-fi, but I didn't want to use the sci-fi except in very rare things that might happen with him. And then you say, wow, what was that, you know? And a bit of magic happens, but don't overdo it. That was a wonderful thing about City on the Edge of Forever, you know. See these people out of context, out of character.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'll have a drink of Siren brandy to that. I enjoyed doing Star Trek. When I said that I was, not a real sci-fi person, when I went into it, I wasn't. But I enjoyed Star Trek tremendously because it presented a new challenge with every episode. And whether the episode was as good as we had wanted it to be, that isn't the point. The point is that it was interesting to come to work because you knew you were going to have an experience that you don't find. And I had freelanced in many television episodes where it was repetitive or it's the same thing, but not with Star Trek. It was wonderful to be able to go in and expect something exciting and sometimes really being pleased. It was a joy to work with it. Yes. Well, thank you very much. She thinks I look very well for an old man. Shatner would give his butt to have mine. Not my friend. You. Yes, you. What do I do in my spare time? Let's see, what do I do in my spare time? Well, generally when I get home, I'll have to take the trash out first thing. And I don't know, I read a great deal. I put around, I'm a big homebody. I'm always doing something around the house, about the house. I do some poetry, and oh, that reminds me. Time is really the blink of an eye. Where do they go, those who die? What is below? What is above? What is in store for those we love? All that's been written and all that's been said still does not answer what happens to the dead.
I don't know where I'm stubborn or lazy or what. If something comes along that moves me, that I really want to do, I've got to look at it and say, now this is worth doing. It doesn't have to be a huge, big thing. The size of the part sometimes doesn't mean it, but if it's meaningful to me and I say, gee, I'd love to do this, then I'll do it. Otherwise, I'll sit on Greenleaf and watch the birds and do my thing, because I'm the kind of guy that can do that.
Yes, what do you...
Well, last year for my birthday, you signed my cast because I had a broken leg in this.
Oh, yes, I did sign your cast. She had a broken leg. Was that in Sacramento? Yeah. I remember you from Sacramento. And I signed that cast, and I patted her leg. There I am doing it. And I said, "You're healed." Look at that. You don't have it anymore. How did I start acting? Who in here do any of you have any thespian thoughts of going into the business as an actor, an actress, anything? You do? I started, I've always told people that the first thing they should do is not leave their hometown. They should get involved here with a little theater group of some sort here. Work in your hometown first before you go anywhere. That's what I did. I came out here from Georgia as a young kid, and I joined the local theater guild down there to just kind of meet somebody. I didn't know anybody. And I was real lucky. A motion picture scout saw me and became interested in me in the first little play that I did. Now that's very unusual. I was very lucky, but I was too young. When I was young, they didn't have teenage idols as such today. You were either a leading man, a character actor, or a juvenile. And they kept saying, just stay down there and keep doing plays, which I did. And finally, the studio got interested in me, and then when I came out of the service, why, Paramount signed me. That's an abbreviated story. I was born in Atlanta. My father was a Baptist minister, and we lived in a number of small towns throughout the South. I spent a lot of my boyhood in an old place called Conyers, Georgia, which is near Covington, where Carol O'Connor does that show from. Yes, way back there. Yes, you.
What do you think of the
What do I think of the Klingons being, as you put it, buddy-buddy up with with us? Well, time marches on, and I was kind of glad to see that some progress was being made. And I would be a fool, I guess, to stand here and as I tried desperately to save David Warner's life. And incidentally, we almost lost him, and they almost lost me. When I was doing that scene, there was a huge, heavy chandelier that was with light, throwing light down on that set. And I was up on that table working with David, and it exploded, and a huge piece of glass just missed Warner's head, stuck in the table. Another one hit me on the shoulder, and that stopped production for a half day. But we have to look at that situation somewhat like we are looking at the situation with the Soviet Union, so to speak. We all want peace. I wish the whole world could have it. Yes. Which of the six? My favorite was 4. You see, we have a great affection for this city because the Federation headquarters is here, too, you know. Right, absolutely. We picked the best city for it, too, I'll tell you that. On what?
Deep Space Nine.
Oh, would I ever appear on Deep Space Nine? I don't know, it's too short a time to know. I saw the pilot of it, and we were talking the other day about Star Trek. It's certainly a deeper shade of coloring than Star Trek as we have known it. It's approaching Star Trek in another way, that in a darker mode, more or less. but I don't know. Incidentally, the producer of Star Trek, Rick Berman, lives across the street from me. So, so I don't know. I'll ask him.
Yeah, network TV in the 60s was an entirely different world. You know, I remember, my God, you know, in Mud's Women, he had a terrible time getting the belly button to show. Or, like I said, in my case, I was typed to the networks, in the network's opinion, as a heavy. And here this part was going on that Gene wanted me for, and they couldn't see it. But then Gene had the connections with Sparks and Dozier, who were very close to Gene, to say, look, I want him in Police Story. I know he'll play the criminologist the way I want him to play it. And that's what happened. And then when the network saw it, they said, wow, you know, how about that? So, and then I went in, you know, it was as simple as that. And the fact, I think that there's a lot to be said what Tartikoff said at the convention the other day, you know, that when you get 500 channels, the networks can become inconsequential to a certain degree. It can happen that way, and that's the reason they've got to take a new approach. They've got to come on with something that other people want to see.
How many times did I tell Jim that he was dead? My God, I don't know. You know, I tried to change that in, what was it in, was it 2 or 3 that Spock died in? 2? They originally, that my line was, you know, I told Nick Meyer, I said, I absolutely can't say that. I said, the whole scene will go up in fire, I said, if I say that. I said, I can't even comment on it in here. So they gave a line to Scotty. That's the truth. They didn't want to take a chance on it. I bet that's on my tombstone. Oh, wouldn't that be awful?
I have a kind of a silly question. You guys have been together so long. Do you ever send each other Christmas cards or birthday cards, or
Do we send it?
on a personal note?
Oh yes. We keep in touch with each other. We don't see each other socially a great deal unless it's on some business thing, you know. But yeah, we send each other Christmas cards, and we talk on the phone occasionally, you know. I just had a long interview with Bill Shatner not long ago. He's doing a book, you know. And so, yeah, we all really feel related. You can't have happen to you what's happened to all of us and not feel a deep sense of affection for someone. Because we've all been through, we know like you do, you know, the phenomena of Star Trek. As I said yesterday, I have one of my fan clubs in Germany, and this girl sends out a little German fan mag, and I noticed on the front of it that it said, what was it? There are no strangers here, only friends who have yet to meet. And I think that's so true about Star Trek. It has brought so many lives together, and at conventions, and people meet each other and they become lifelong friends. The way the show has affected different people, there's a physician working on this show, Dr. Rosenthal, and he was telling me how he had been influenced by McCoy, Star Trek, that kind of shoved him into the medical field. And I'm constantly getting letters from young people who have gone into medicine, some who've graduated, and now getting those that are in their practice. So it's been a very rewarding experience, and it's an experience that not many actors, believe me, get to. When you look back and you think, gee, maybe I would have gone on and done movies and everything would have been different, but not many actors can have the pleasure of saying that they dropped a little something along in their life that will help or instill this future generation to go forward in a decent and wholesome way, in a wholesome manner. And I'm proud of that. I'd like to tell you how much I've enjoyed being here with you today, and I want to thank you for coming out to be with me. You're a wonderful group of people, and I love you all.
All of the good things that have happened to me in my life have happened almost, they were completely unexpected. But I've adopted an attitude that I don't expect. I'm not sitting at home expecting something to fall in my lap. I don't mean that. But the best things that happened to me were the easiest things. The hard things, the thing you really want to do and you don't get. But it's been so funny with me. All of the good things I got, it seemed to kind of fall into place. And it's either going to be that way, and if not, as I say, I'm living in the valley, and I'm happy with my life. And I'm still out there with the very same wife.